I can't believe I had to wait until I was grown to get a book like this. Yes, okay, My Rice is Best is a children's picture book, but if you grew up in a Black British household, if you knew what it meant to defend your culture, whether it be at school, at a party, or even at another's yard, then you already know why this book hits different. So today, we're deep diving into this kid's book and talking about why representation in the most ordinary places matters more than people give it credit for. And I want to talk about why, because I don't think it's the reason you'd expect. So let's get the details out the way. My Rice is Best was published in 2025 by Penguin Random House Books in the UK. It's written by Selina Brown, who is a Black female author of Jamaican heritage, and it was illustrated by Maxwell Oginni. He's a Nigerian British illustrator who is also London based. And just to give a little backstory on both of them from what I've researched, Selina is actually a pioneer in advocating for Black British literature, as she has created a lot of valuable work in the Black British community. For example, she's written several children's books and is the founder of the Black British Book Festival. And if you're looking at the artwork of this book and thinking it looks familiar, it probably is, because if you're in the UK, you've probably seen Jojo and Gran Gran. And interestingly enough, Maxwell was one of the primary illustrators behind Jojo and Gran Gran. Most of the time, his work, from what I've seen, depicts a lot of vibrant dark-skinned characters. So on the surface, My Rice is Best is about an African Caribbean boy and suggestively a Nigerian girl embracing their culture and campaigning which of their rice is best. More specifically, which rice is ultra yummylicious. As we dive deeper into the story, their peers, which are children from different cultural backgrounds, join in on the campaign to embrace and advocate the rich emotive and cultural significance of their ancestral rice dishes. So based on the blurb, this book is a celebratory example of cultural pride and how harmony can be cultivated amongst diverse social groups, which I personally feel is a concept needing to be reinforced now more than ever, given the current times we are living in. But let's dive deeper into why this book hits different for me as a Black British artist with a beautiful dual heritage son of Yoruba-Nigerian and Afro-Caribbean descent. Even though children's UK media has increased its representation of Black protagonists over the past 10 years, recent studies have indicated that at least 70% of existing UK children's books with Black protagonists were written by people who had few identity similarities and/or shared experiences as the protagonists themselves. A lot of the characters in these books appear to have ambiguous features, where only their skin tone was a brown complexion. So with this in mind, you can imagine why I stood in the middle of the Waterstones grinning at a book that not only had Black characters on the cover, but characters with recognizable cultural characteristics similar to those I grew up with, and more importantly, similar to my little boy's aesthetics. But what do I mean by that? So on the cover, not only did it show a little boy, it showed a little boy with dark skin and who happens to be of Caribbean heritage, and also happens to have an iconic cultural hairstyle that is more than familiar to me. The concept of long hair on boys, in my opinion, is definitely Caribbean coded, whether it be braids, cornrows, or locks. And let's face it, clean lineups and fades are paramount to my cultural hairstyles. And then you have Yinka, which is Shane's friend. Once again, her hairstyle brought a wave of nostalgia to me, where my mum used to braid my hair and almost always adorn it with multicolored baubles and beads. And then you have Shane's mum, and what can I say? She's a beautiful dark-skinned Black woman with short hair. Now don't get me wrong, I have no issue with long hair and the variety of hues that melanin comes in, but it was refreshing to see a matriarch that I can identify with aesthetically and culturally. Let's be real, it's no secret the implication of colorism in media is a real thing and something that cannot be discussed sufficiently in this video, so I'm not even going to start something in this video that I can't finish. But all I'm gonna say is this, that whether it was the illustrator's intention or not, centralizing dark-skinned characters in a Black British children's story was impactful and heartwarming for me. And as mentioned before, this book hits on so many levels for me, not only because of the bright packaging and characters on the front page, but the story centralized a small but significant aspect of Black British Caribbean culture, our cuisine. If you're not looking for it, you'll miss it, but the culturally coded details in the book were a delightful surprise. For example, if you've interacted with the community, ginger beer cans, tinned tomatoes, and ardo bread are often considered a staple in Caribbean households. And as someone who's a mix of multiple Caribbean islands, the rice and peas dish is a staple in my cultural cuisine, one that I've avidly implemented in my son's early stages of life. I think that's why I felt a wave of warm familiarity flood over me as I skimmed through the first couple of pages. I stopped on where Shane's mum shared the cultural relevance of one of the most nostalgic ingredients used in Shane's favourite dish, and a lot of Caribbean cuisine. That is the pimento seed. The adoration Shane had for the seed validated the authenticity behind what I cook and why I cook it in the way I do. My mum always used pimento seeds and taught me how to use it in our food too. I accepted it as a fact of life and a staple of cooking, but I didn't realise the cultural significance of this seed until I started to run my own household. And what I mean by that is, I used to think pimento was a default ingredient in most African and/or Afro-diasporan households. And after all, coming from a Caribbean household, I was taught you don't eat from everyone's house. And those places where I did eat were also often Caribbean households. So pimento seeds was often found in the food I consumed. But it wasn't until I started running my own household that I found that wasn't the case. That's because my husband never was aware of using pimento in cooking, and as far as he knows, his traditional cooking didn't embrace the seed either. But granted, I can't say for a fact that pimento isn't used in Yoruba dishes, but he only came across pimento in dishes when he was sitting at our family table. But let me know in the comments below, are pimento seeds a staple in any of your cultural dishes? But nonetheless, after 5 minutes of encountering this book, I was sold, and I was already gliding to the cashier ready to use my last bit of coffee money to purchase this nostalgic gem of a book. I mean, the character design and the cultural details in the book are undoubtedly the most significant elements that have made this book a success in my eyes. I strongly believe that effective representation lies in highlighting the small but impactful nuances in a culture. That's why Brown and Oginni did a brilliant job at actualizing this book. From the stylized and significant melanated characters to the little nods of culture in each scene, this book celebrates the diverse nature of British culture while anchoring the Afro-diasporan cultural experiences at the centre of the story. My Rice is Best isn't just a kid's book. It's a small example of how cultural pride, even in its most humble form, is significant and can exist without diminishing another. It allows Black British parents and our children to be seen in the right way, in warmth, in celebration, in full unapologetic colour. And for me, growing up in Britain with very little examples of characters that look like me, this message hits differently. It makes me grateful that my son has another example of cultural pride and positive representation of his dual African heritage. And if this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. What food from your culture would you put in a book like this? And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye!